Hey everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Teri Hunter. I'm an intuitive astrologer, angel therapy practitioner, Reiki master, and empowerment coach. And today is December 1st, 2022, and I'm going to talk about the month's transits and some of the highlights that I think are going to be. The month kind of starts off with a little bit of action. It gets a little bit quieter in the middle of the month, and then towards the end of the month, things sort of ramp back up again. So I want to let you know first off that these videos are based on whole sign Western astrology. I use whole sign when I'm making videos and talking to a lot of people. I think it's the most efficient. If indeed I was doing a personal reading for you, it would be in Placidus. I absolutely look at the degrees and I look at the house sizes and structure. And I think that gives me a lot more detail about your soul's intention for this incarnation. So that's going on. Or that's how I do things. Also, if you'd like to book a reading, either an angel reading, which is strictly an intuitive reading where I facilitate messages from your guides and your angels, I'm available. I'm also available for astrology to do a natal chart, past life chart, the transits coming up for 2023. So let me know if you would like to do that. My information is below. You can email me at info@terihunter.com. And that is info@terihunter.com. Okay, so let's jump into the month. Today is December 1st, as I said, and Mars is retrograding in Gemini, making an opposition, almost an exact opposition to Venus and Mercury. Venus is at 19 degrees, Mercury is at 22 degrees in Sagittarius, and Mars is retrograde at 18 degrees, Gemini. This feels very much like it's starting to tee up the full moon in Gemini, and I will be doing a separate video on that. It'll be coming out in the next day or so. But the reason I bring this up is because when I look at it, I think very much that Venus isn't really representing relationships right now. She could be, depending upon your personal chart, but overall, I think it has something to do with how we value ourselves. And I'm looking at Mercury at 22 degrees Sagittarius, kind of getting a feeling of the Virgonian side of Mercury, and really kind of looking at my health, my mental health, how am I treating myself? And Mars is this sort of, I kind of want to put it this way. I feel as if today's energy is like your blood pressure could skyrocket because you're annoyed about something that doesn't feel fair, doesn't feel right, or there's thwarting of movement. And Venus representing money, representing my material resources. I'm kind of feeling like that sort of security of having enough. And Mercury ruling at the 22nd degree, that is a very powerful degree. So I'm kind of taking that as, how am I taking care of my health, my mental health, my physical health? Jupiter is creeping towards the house cusp between Pisces and Aries, and Aries, Mars rules Aries. So there could be this sort of feeling of wanting to sort of escape right now, wanting to sort of, have an extra glass of wine in the evening, or, ignore some realities, I guess is the way I want to put it. Put a little, I don't want to think about that right now, because also today we have Mercury squaring Neptune retrograde in Pisces at 22 degrees. We have an exact square there. So Pisces also rules our mental health. It rules that which sits behind us, the things we think in private that we don't really share with others. So I think this energy right now is teeing up some real revelations and epiphanies during the full moon in Gemini. So now on the 3rd, we're going to see Neptune stationed direct. And on the 3rd, so basically Neptune is staying at 22 degrees for quite some time and has been So to me, again, this is a transformational degree because it is the master number of cooperation and partnership. It is the planet that rules spirituality and also escapism. So it's a kind of coming to this, how am I going to step up and take care of me and see the divinity of that? And in that, inviting in others to join me and support me. Because Venus, again, I'm coming at my self-worth. I'm coming at the idea of my ability to make money and resources and feel secure moving forward. Because Venus is going to creep into Capricorn in very short period of time, and it's going to change her beliefs. So as she's ending this sojourn through, or this journey through Sagittarius, she's looking at her beliefs, and Mercury is fueling that. They've been traveling together very closely through these last three signs, all the way since like the end of Virgo, beginning of Libra. So they've been having these intense conversations. Are my thoughts aligned to my own sense of where I want to be and where I want to go? And I'm a big fan of the laws of the universe. I've done a video on those, the 12 divine laws. I live my life by them. And so I see this coming together in this planetary activity, because it's offering me deeper layers of understanding the human imprint that our mind doesn't always consciously have an awareness of. Because that's where Neptune comes in. That's where there's this sort of feeling of things being foggy or sitting underneath, or this sort of, also Pisces and Neptune rule ancestors. And this feeling of when the physical body emerges back into the collective consciousness. And so there's an inner being and a real soul's connection offered in that vibration. So I think this is really coming up. Mars is all about the physical. So this opposition to Venus and Mercury today, and then Mercury squaring Neptune, is really creating, I think, this buildup. So some people are going to have epiphanies and start to take brave action. And some people may just be like, I've had it up to here. Because that's really, I think this is a very key energy for this month. The holidays are already a very stressful time for most people. There's a lot of hubbub going on. So anyway, on the 5th, we will see Mercury at 28 degrees Sagittarius. Oh yes. On the 5th, 28 degrees Sagittarius, now making a square to Jupiter direct at 29 degrees Pisces. I think this is significant because the 28 reduces down to a 1. The 1 always represents thought. Focused thought manifests. It brings the laws of attraction into play, and then it starts to magnetize experiences, people, and dynamics into our physical world. And now we're seeing Jupiter at 29 degrees. So now that reduces down to an 11. So we have Mercury, which rules the 3rd house, Jupiter, which rules the 9th house. So we have this natural access and opposition between higher minded concepts and philosophies and ideologies versus everyday activities, where our mind goes, I've got to run this errand, I've got to pick up this kid, I've got to get this done for work, blah, 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 blah. So there's this big square really between these two things, which again, I think is bringing us into this full moon within the next few days. It's like this opportunity for me to start to be so aware of the vibration that I'm putting out into the universe that I become in some ways insulated from some of the more challenging dynamics that I think these aspects offer us. On the 6th, which is the day after the square between Mercury and Jupiter, Mercury will enter Capricorn. And when Mercury enters Capricorn, it's going to become more serious. It's going to start to think about things, about structure, about, how is my everyday life? Who's the authority over me? Am I the authority over myself? And Mercury is going to be going through Capricorn and then retrograde at the end of the month. But not before having a very close conversation with Pluto, but we're going to get there. because on the 7th, the same day as the full moon in Gemini, once again, I'm going to be doing a separate video, so look for that in the next day or so. Venus will be at 27 degrees Sagittarius, making a square to Jupiter at 29 degrees. I really think that this day, the square between Venus and Jupiter, well, I don't think they really fight that much, although there are some schools of thought that say in their lower vibration, Jupiter can be kind of uppity and entitled, and Venus can be rather vain and jealous. So they can be a little challenging. But here, I think there's something going on with this full moon illuminating not only a tense dynamic that Mars is bringing up, because Mars is in conjunction with this full moon, but it is really calling me to task to what do I believe about myself and my efforts, my thoughts, not actually looking to the outside world for anything. So that could be very, very challenging. On the 10th, Venus will enter Capricorn. She's still squaring Jupiter, but she becomes very somber. She becomes very, again, focused on security and structure, and she doesn't feel so sexy in Capricorn. You know, she gets more aware of how she's perceived in the public eye, and you know, she's aware of her sense of leadership. So we are seeing a more serious side of both Mercury and Venus as they've entered Capricorn. So as they're soldiering or journeying through Capricorn, there's a lot of review about my structure. How am I feeling about my life? How am I feeling about my public service or my job, my career? Am I being a leader in my own life? Am I building the life that brings me comfort and a sense of pride for what I've accomplished? This would be a conversation that Mercury and Venus are having as they're going through Capricorn. Okay, so then we jump all the way to the 22nd, where Jupiter enters Aries, or I should say re-enters Aries, and is going to be there, I think, for about 5 or 6 months before it moves into Taurus. I'm going to do a separate video on that and address each sign and what house that's in. I think it's significant because Jupiter really offers us an opportunity for expansion, but I think it has a lot to do with how we processed this full moon in Gemini. Okay, then we have on the 22nd, the sun entering Capricorn. Happy birthday, my goats. I love goats. I'm a big fan of the goats. On the 23rd is the new moon in Capricorn. That's going to be at 1 degree. It's going to be very interesting because my Saturn is at 1 degree Capricorn, and the Sagittarius new moon was on my Jupiter. So I think this is a really interesting time for me with all this stuff going on. So I'm going to do a separate video on that, but I want to mention that on that same day as the new moon in Capricorn reveals opportunities, we have Chiron turning direct in Aries at 11 degrees. I just mentioned the number significance of the ones. It's my focused thought. What am I thinking? And as don't have to be perfect in aligning my thoughts initially, but allowing for the slowdown of the old story and start to insert, what if this is a new day? What if the evolved version of me has more momentum than I give it credit for? Because Chiron is not just the wound, but the gift. Because when we seek the wisdom that the wound has to offer, we understand the ebb and the flow of the human experience is riddled with wounds. You know, and it's what we do with those, because the empowerment and the exhilaration and the awareness of being a co-creator and then a deliberate creator makes those wounds something that really do feel like gifts. And I could give you so many examples in my own life, but I would never want to go back and feel the wound again. So, all right, then on the 29th, we have Mercury going retrograde at 24 degrees Capricorn. And this is as it is beginning to have a conversation with Pluto that's been sitting at 27 degrees Capricorn. And 2 days later, Venus will be conjunct Pluto exact, and that's on New Year's Eve. I think this last week of 2022 is not for the faint of heart. I think that Pluto's conjunction with these two planets offers the Phoenix rising, offers, Scorpio and Pluto are also ruled by the totem, the eagle, as well as the Phoenix. So there's a divinity that through trauma and crisis and reevaluation of your own deeper psychologies, and rather than trying to erase the trauma, the crisis, the imbalance, how can I use that to propel me where I want to go? How can I use that to empower me and to understand the ebb and flow of control? Because control really only comes from my own awareness of my thoughts. And my thoughts are usually predicated on my inner being, my inner psychology, the imprint that happened in those first few houses when I first incarnated into this experience. By the time we get to the third house, Gemini, we're interacting with siblings, we're interacting with peers, and we're starting to see how we measure up in comparison to them. And I believe that by the time we get to Pluto's energy in the 8th house, we determine what's right for us and what doesn't work for us. And now when we start to think of the Aquarian age as the higher octave of Mercury, the genius aspect, the bravery of your uniqueness, then we understand all of this eruption and disruption and the crumbling of structures and the vast I almost want to say openness of our co-creation and being just little babies in that. It can very much frighten us. And we want to retract back into the old. But I think that what we have is a real opportunity to feel safer in the unknown when we're aware of our co-creation. So I think this is really a powerful month. I think 2023 is going to be yet another hugely transformational year. And I don't say that because the outside world is changing in a way that is easy, but in a way that I process the outside world from my inside. Because as we really do remember the truth of our soul, remember that our soul said, it's those very challenges that are going to give me my tail wag. It's that really scary road when I don't know if I'm going to win, lose, if I'm going to be pushing a shopping cart, or if I'm going to be driving a Rolls. Those moments and the ascension through them is what the soul comes into this dense experience for. It's exciting and it's energetic and it's vital. So when you're in a disrupted place and you seek your opportunities through them, how can I take whatever feels like it doesn't serve me and then move just an inch or two closer to what does? So I want to offer you this in sort of rounding out this December's highlights of astrology. The intuitive aspect of how I do my work is trusting that there's a bigger picture. And sometimes my mercurial mind just starts in a loop that I can actually think I'm thinking two thoughts at the same time. One is an elevated thought and one is that lower fear-based thought. In that moment, I have an opportunity to give myself a break. I'm a human. I'm operating on human energy right now. So rather than being frustrated with myself, because again, Mars is going through Gemini, that is ruled by Mercury. Mars is kicking things up, wanting to move forward while it's headed backwards. And so to use that retrograde for review and for real strategic planning moving forward. I just put up a quote from Abraham that says, what your thoughts are literally planning your future. So right now, our thoughts can be very warrior-like and can be very edgy and cranky and in some ways feeling like, hey, I've been here, I've done that. I don't want to do it again. And when you say do it, that's your opportunity, because it's when you start to be it first within your grace you give yourself, and then that grace will bring in inspirations, and that inspiration will lead you to actions that will lead you to experiences that empower you to trust those higher vibrational thoughts that haven't manifested in the material world just yet. All right, it's an exciting time for the human race and for what opportunities we have here to create heaven on earth. So keep your awareness up and really do your best to stay Zen. Do your best to stay away from people who irritate you, because to react is going to be very easy to do. Be cautious on the roadways. People will be impatient on the roadways and in parking lots and in mall parking lots. So all that good stuff. All right, I'm going to be posting a full moon in Gemini video in the next day or so. So look for that. That's happening on December 7th. And I'll be back on Sunday morning at 11 a.m. Pacific time with our weekly angel scopes, where we get our angels' advice for traversing the transits. Thank you so much. Please hit that like button, hit the subscribe button and that little bell so you get notified when the new content comes out. And thank you so much for your support and comment. All right, guys. See you next time. Peace out. Okay.